we might be, hopefully, potentially nearing something of a
white pill moment.
Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and this is Winnie the Westie, and I am back in Canada after having tasted the freedom
of the United States of America.
This past weekend, I was in West Virginia to go live on Tim Pool's second channel, Timcast IRL in real life, which is sort of longer format discussion about news-related items. I was live with Robert Barnes, who I finally got to meet in person for the first time. If you haven't watched that live stream, go check it out. It's pretty good. Here's a 5-second clip. Tim Hortons is like the icon of Canada. Doesn't have an apostrophe with the S, because under the language laws, if you had an apostrophe in Quebec, it was an English language thing. So Tim Hortons didn't want to have two brandings for the product, so they just removed the apostrophe. But it was the first time in nearly 2 years that I crossed the border into another country, and I tell you, stepping foot into the United States, it was stepping foot into another culture entirely compared to what we're currently living through in Canada. Some people were wearing masks, some stores required masks, others didn't. I drove through a few states, so some states have different rules than others. But stepping into the United States from Canada, it was fundamentally a different culture as relates to freedom, and I got a taste for freedom once again.
And I liked it.
So crossing back over the border into my home country, into a province where people often walk the streets alone, wearing masks, sometimes double masks, it was stepping foot back into a culture of fear. I don't really like it, but I think I finally found some reason, at the very least, to believe we might be approaching a white pill moment in time. For those of you who don't know, which means that you are new to the channel because I've discussed it multiple times in the past, Canada, under Justin Trudeau's leadership, recently announced that in order to board planes or trains for provincial travel, you are going to have to show proof of vaccination as of 12 years old and up. The Trudeau government announced they would be implementing this measure as of October or November of this year, and I was saying, look at the United States. In addition to having a culture of freedom, it also has something of a culture of litigation, and I was saying how in the United States, lawsuits about these measures are flying, whereas in Canada, not so much.
Until now.
The JCCF, which is the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, I have done 3 live streams with its president, John Carpe. They recently filed a suit in the province of Ontario to challenge the constitutionality of the vaccine passports in that province. Now, although this is a provincial lawsuit, its implication can and probably will be national, because it is challenging the constitutionality of a provincial measure by invoking the Charter of Rights, which applies to all Canadians. So if these vaccine passport measures are deemed to be unconstitutional in one province under the Federal Charter of Rights and Freedoms, it would presumably be equally unconstitutional in every province throughout Canada. And the potential white pill moment that we might be approaching results not only from the filing of this lawsuit, but also the way the media seems to be getting wind of the fact that what Justin Trudeau and the federal government are doing is not just wholly unscientific, it is purely about power. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just break down the lawsuit. It's very simple. We're going to go over it very quickly, but we're going to go to the provisions of the Charter so that you understand exactly what is at issue here.
The applicants make application for 1. A declaration pursuant to Section 52(1) of the Constitution Act 1982 that Sections 2, 2.1, and 2.1 of Schedule 1 of O.Reg 364/20 entitled Rules for Areas at Step 3 and at the Roadmap Exit Step and any related amendments create a vaccine passport, i.e. a digital or paper proof of requisite vaccination, which unjustifiably infringes rights and freedoms guaranteed under Sections 2A and B, 7, 8, and 15 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Charter, and therefore has, quote, no force or effect, end quote.
Ultimately, the lawsuit is no more complicated than that. It is basically just seeking a declaration that the provisions of this regulation are unconstitutional. It's seeking an interim and permanent injunction enjoining the government from enforcing these provisions of the regulation. It goes through the parties, yada, 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 but let's get to the provisions of the Charter that actually exist, in theory, to guarantee our rights and freedoms.
Section 52(1). The Constitution of Canada is the supreme law of Canada, and any law that is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution is, to the extent of the inconsistency, of no force or effect.
With that stated, and for further clarity, let's just read 2 allegations from the lawsuit.
Paragraph 12. The Government of Ontario has introduced laws that require Ontarians to show proof of being fully vaccinated against COVID-19, i.e. the vaccine passport, as a condition of entering various private establishments such as indoor areas of restaurants, food and drink establishments with dance facilities, indoor meeting spaces and conference centers, indoor facilities for sports, concert venues, theaters, among others. On or about August 24th, 2021, the Government of Ontario amended Section 2 of Schedule 1 of the Stage 3 regulation, delegating broad authority to the Chief Medical Officer of Health and Regional Medical Officers of Health to require persons operating a business or organization to create and enforce COVID-19 vaccination policies. On or about September 22nd, 2021, the Government of Ontario further amended the Stage 3 regulation requiring that persons operating a business or organization to review and confirm the proof of vaccination and deny access and services to patrons who fail to show proof of COVID-19 vaccination. Proof of vaccination or proof of medical exemption is not required for employees of these businesses.
So the bottom line is that the Government of Ontario is creating a vaccine passport policy, and they are further requiring that businesses implement their own policies to deny access to people who do not show proof of vaccination, and that these policies violate charter rights. Charter violations. Section 2.1 and 2.1 of the Stage 3 regulation. A. Override an individual's objections to COVID-19 vaccinations based on the fundamental rights of freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion contrary to Section 2A and B of the Charter. B. Require people to wrongfully discriminate against others based on their vaccine status contrary to Section 2A of the Charter, i.e. the fundamental right to freedom of conscience and religion. C. Violate the right to life, liberty, and security of the person and its corollaries, the right to informed consent, and the principles of fundamental justice contrary to Section 7 of the Charter. D. Infringe on the right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure contrary to Section 8 of the Charter. And E. Infringe the right to equal protection and benefit of the law by creating a disadvantaged class, the unvaccinated, and discriminating against the class contrary to Section 15 of the Charter. Now, what is this Charter of which the JCCF speaks? Well, we just read Section 52 of the Charter, which says that it is the supreme law of the land. Now let's read Article 1 of that very same Charter.
The supreme law of the land.
Constitution Act 1982, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. Guarantee of rights and freedoms. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out in it, subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Any law or regulation that is inconsistent with the Charter is of no force or effect,
unless it can be justified in a free and democratic society.
What? What the fuck? Translation to a great many, Canadians have absolutely no fundamental rights and freedoms. They are all merely privileges granted to you by the government that they can take away at their whim if they decide it can be done in a free and democratic society. A free and democratic society
that takes away your fundamental rights.
Some people might think that living in a society that can take away your fundamental rights and freedoms is not a free and democratic society.
Oh, snap.
But let's not get too distracted by my random outbursts. Let's go see exactly what those fundamental rights and freedoms actually are. Fundamental freedoms. 2. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. A. Freedom of conscience and religion. B. Freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. C. Freedom of peaceable assembly. And D. Freedom of association. Now, I don't think I'm going out on much of a limb here now to say that each and every one of those fundamental rights and freedoms that I just read you have been systematically violated over the last 2 years. And to break out a meme I haven't used in the longest of times.
But wait! There's more! Hang on to your seat, baby, cause this one's a screamer!
Legal rights. Life, liberty, and security of person. 7. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person and the right not to be deprived thereof except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. To which I would respond with 2 words.
Quarantine hotels.
Search or seizure. 8. Everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. Detention or imprisonment. Section 9. Detention or imprisonment. 9. Everyone has the right not to be arbitrarily detained or imprisoned. To which I would respond with the same 2 words, quarantine hotel. Now, Section 9 is not part of the lawsuit, but I just couldn't skip over that one given the quarantine hotels, but let's skip to Section 15, which is a part of the lawsuit. Equal rights. Equality before and under law and equal protection and benefit of law. 15.1. Every individual is equal before and under the law and has the right to the equal protection and equal benefit of the law without discrimination and, in particular, without discrimination based on race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability. Now, full disclosure for anybody who's new to the channel, although this is not going to come as a surprise for anybody who has been following me for more than 10 minutes, I have thought from the very beginning that all of these measures have been fundamentally unconstitutional. I have said it time and time again, even if the courts have not come to that same conclusion in that they have found that the quarantine hotels were not unconstitutional, shutting down churches or restricting church services was not unconstitutional, a curfew in Quebec was not deemed to be unconstitutional. And although I have been wrong in how the courts came down on those particular issues. It doesn't mean that I am wrong, but at the very least, with respect to vaccine passports, I also feel that these are fundamentally unconstitutional, and I am not alone in that sentiment. From the Toronto Sun, Gunter, liberal vaccine mandates are all about political gain, by Lorne Gunter, October 23, 2021. This article is addressing the national vaccine mandate that Trudeau thinks he has been empowered to impose on Canadians, and according to this article, nearly everyone thinks that the vaccine mandates are fundamentally unconstitutional. Trouble is, nearly every legal opinion says 100% mandates can't legally be done. You can't force people to accept something into their body if they don't want it. So if your goal is to prevent a recurrence of the infection, you have to find some other way to ensure the vaccine hesitant are virus-free. A little further in the article, the Federal Transportation Department quietly announced that the vaccine mandate for air and rail travelers would have to be put off until December, and even then domestic passengers can probably not be forced to be vaccinated. Negative tests likely will have to be accepted in lieu. The Trudeau government knows all of this, of course, but it assumes many Canadians don't, so all its tough talk about MPs getting vaccinated is nothing more than virtue signaling for political gain, just like its vaccine mandate for, quote, all, end quote, civil servants that lets 70% of federal employees quietly skirt the requirement. In a way, this is very much analogous to that old expression about communist states that they're lying, we know they're lying, they know we know they're lying, we know they know we know they're lying, and yet they still continue to lie. This is unconstitutional. They know it's unconstitutional. We know it's unconstitutional. They know we know it's unconstitutional.
And they're still trying to shove it down our throats.
And it's not just that it's unconstitutional, it's totally illogical and unscientific. I put out a tweet that I hope is an undumb tweet earlier today, and I said basically, if you feel more comfortable around someone who you know to be vaccinated but do not know to be COVID negative versus someone who you know to be unvaccinated but know to be COVID negative, you are not being scientific.
You are being irrational.
So the Trudeau government imposing these measures, making vaccination the requirement for travel and not proof of a negative test, is not just being unconstitutional, it's being wholly irrational.
But it's also being totally unconstitutional.
And it's not just that the JCCF filed a lawsuit to challenge the constitutionality of these measures, at least in the province of Ontario, it's that the media is getting wind of it and people are getting wind of it, and hopefully that will be the white pill moment that Canada needs in order to tell the Trudeau government we have had enough of this unconstitutional and unscientific
rubbish.
I'm very sorry, I didn't mean to swear there, so I'm going to go pat my dog to lower the blood pressure. Now that is the vlog. I will be following this lawsuit. I might try to get another live stream with John Carpe so they can talk about the lawsuit, give us the updates. But if you like my videos and you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm.
Do it.
Let's do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it. Come on, sweetie. Do it.
Okay.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
If you want to support the channel, all of the support links are in the pinned comment. Robert Barnes and I do weekly streams every Sunday. We do weekly streams with a guest every Wednesday called The Sidebar. If you want to find us and support us on Locals, where supporters get lots of exclusive content, but members who do not need to pay to support get lots of content, you can find us at
VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com.
All of my content is on Rumble as well, so you can watch it there. But more important than anything, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!